But it's, yeah, I guess that's how I'll say there.
Yeah. I don't think very many people are going to use bidirectional charging unless you have a Powerwall, because if you unplug your car, your house goes dark. And this is extremely inconvenient.
Yeah, most of the value, it comes in charging the car at the right time. It's not really about sending energy the other way.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a Powerwall that can take the house load, then you can use your car as a supplementary energy source to the Powerwall, and then you're not going to drive everyone crazy by unplugging your car and having the house go off. So I think there's some value there as a supplemental energy source down the road, where if you have a Powerwall, you've not diminished the convenience of the people in the house.
And the question of number of models?
Sorry, the what? Oh, how many models? Oh,
vehicle models.
Not that many. Really, 10? I don't know. Not that many. What's happened with conventional cars is people have run out of things to do. So if you run out of things to do, they just end up reshuffling the deck, and you have pretty much the same. I mean, how many variants of car are there on the road? There's like hundreds. But are they good variants? No, mostly not. They're just variants for the sake of variants. But look at how have things converged with the phone? I mean, there used to be hundreds of flip phones. Now what do we have? It'll be like that.
George?
George Gianarikas from Canaccord Genuity. Just had a question about your plans to grow market share in China, and also whether or not the political tensions between the United States and China impact your long-term ambitions there. Thank you.
I don't know. Hey, Tom, not to put, don't sweat too hard.
Yeah. Well, we're still growing our market share in China quite strongly, actually. Especially early this year, we had this price adjustment. After that, we actually generated a huge demand, more than we can produce, really. As Elon said, as long as you offer a product with value at affordable price, you don't have to worry about demand. That's basically the philosophy that we follow. We try everything to cut cost from supply chain, from improve the efficiency in the factory, and pass down that value to our customers. I think as long as we continue to do that, I'm not too concerned about the market share in China. And the second part, geopolitics, no one knows. We do our best. We actually create a lot of jobs to the local community. And we generally also at our suppliers' factories, we'll create a lot of jobs as well, and we'll contribute a lot to the local economy. I think as long as we're needed in this country, I don't see there much of the risk of that.
Colin?
Colin Rush from Oppenheimer. One of the things I was struck by in the presentation was the operational efficiency metrics that you guys are talking about. Could you talk a little bit about the velocity of learning cycles and how you guys track that and think about that as an organization as you work into a variety of other areas from an innovation perspective?
Anyone want to try that?
I mean, I'll say one very high-level thing, which is you can't improve something you don't measure, and we're like ruthless measurers at Tesla. And once you start measuring things that contribute to operational efficiency, you actually have a path to doing something about it. So I guess the key is a good measuring stick.
Okay. It's something I should say with respect to demand, which I've said a few times over the years, but it's sometimes it needs to be said again, which is overwhelmingly the the desire for people to own a Tesla is extremely high. The limiting factor is their ability to pay for a Tesla, not do they want a Tesla. It's easy for people in this room to lose sight of that. If your income is far in excess of what a car costs, then you look at value for money, but you do not consider affordability. But for the vast majority of people, it is affordability driven. This is why we cannot simply double the price of the car. Or you could say, and think about things in the limit, where if you had an infinitely desirable car, but it costs $10 million, it wouldn't matter because most people do not have that. So demand is very much a function of affordability, not desire. Very important. One of the things we weren't sure about was the price elasticity of demand for Teslas. So like, as we lower the price, how much does demand increase? And we found that even small changes in the price have a big effect on demand, very big. So that was a good thing to learn. Yeah. And then as this autonomy question is very, very big, because you could potentially have, I don't know, 5 times the utility of the asset that you currently have. So if a passenger car is 10 or 12 hours a week of usage, plus a lot of parking expenses, an autonomous car could be 50 to 60 hours a week or something like that. And you could get rid of a lot of parking expenses. So, if this is true, then as autonomy is effectively turned on for the fleet, it probably will be the biggest asset value increase in history overnight.
Emmanuel?
Thank you so much, Emmanuel Rosner from Deutsche Bank. So as you start launching this next generation vehicle and ramping up volume, what will be your nearest term priority in terms of segment or vehicles focus? The slide that you showed with 2 vehicles on the wrap seemed, based on form factor, one of them maybe looks like a van, another one looks like maybe like a smaller vehicle, like potentially a Model 2. I guess, what is the nearest term focus for you in terms of ramping up the next gen vehicle? And how do you make sure that by lowering the price point so much, because the cost is going down 50%, you're not cannibalizing demand, for your existing vehicles?
I mean, demand for our vehicles in terms of desire to own them may as well be infinite. It's indistinguishable from infinite at this point. So affordability is what matters. So as you make the car more affordable, we will have demand go crazy, basically. The issue is, how do we build the cars? The hard part is building the cars. I can't emphasize that enough. The hard part is building the cars and the entire supply chain that goes with the cars. This is a logistics challenge of extraordinary difficulty. All the things that have to go into the car have to scale with the car, while everything is doing an exponential ramp. And if you miss even one of those things, doesn't matter why, earthquake, flood, fire, revolution, I thought I've heard them all. Any part of that supply chain gets interrupted. Then you have a seizure. The hard part is building the cars by far, and the supply chain that goes with it. You guys want to talk about supply chain stuff?
Well, they might.
I think, in the presentation I'd mentioned perfection is a passing grade. We really need everything to happen perfectly, and the strategy for mitigating the different risks, some of which were anticipated and some weren't, is really bespoke to the situation. And really you need subject matter expertise and a deep knowledge of the particular supply chain you're managing to come up with those strategies. So we've seen everything from, as Elon mentioned, first the tariffs that flew back and forth, then the ocean logistics issue, the chip shortage, COVID, floods. There was a fire in a fab in Japan that knocked down. There was a massive COVID spike in Malaysia where a lot of the chips, the back end of a lot of chips was